It's May 25th, 2020, and it's time to review 5 of the most outrageous, infuriating, or just plain baffling things that have happened lately. It's your Facepalm 5. Let's count 'em up. Number 1, Americans gather to celebrate Memorial Day, and we're all gonna die. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Facepalm 5. Let's get started with this one. Today is Memorial Day here in the United States. It is a day which we set aside to honor those who have lost their lives while serving in the armed forces. It's also the unofficial start of summer, when Americans traditionally flock to beaches and parks, stage parades, go to cookouts, and stand real close to each other for a whole plethora of reasons. With the COVID-19 pandemic still very much a thing, the sensible course of action would be to skip those celebrations and put those traditions on hold. Go to the beach later, cancel the parade, do the cookout next year. You stocked up on hot dogs for this year? Eat them yourself. You won't be sorry. But, of course, we are Americans, and ain't no virus gonna tell us what to do. So while some of us, a lot of us, to be fair, continued to observe social distancing guidelines, some of us, also, a lot of us said, fuck it, and went on ahead to the beach. For instance, right here in my home state of Maryland, the boardwalk at Ocean City was crowded with visitors. What reason did they have to think this was an okay thing to do? No reason! People are still getting sick and dying of COVID-19 in Maryland as well as throughout the country, but hey, it's been a few months, so that's long enough, right? Our governor recently allowed some businesses to reopen at limited capacity while continuing to stress the importance of staying home as much as possible and practicing social distancing and wearing face masks when in close contact with others in public. Or, as quite a few of my fellow Marylanders seem to have interpreted all of that, lockdown is over! Yay! Let's go to the beach! And it's not just Maryland, of course. Every state of the U.S. is now in some phase or another of reopening, despite indications that the worst of the COVID-19 outbreak is not yet over in many places. But the local examples of this kind of reckless behavior land a lot harder with me, because in some cases, I can literally look right out my window and watch them happening in real time. For example, a few weeks ago, in light of the COVID-19 outbreak, my town council voted to officially cancel our town Memorial Day parade, which was a big deal to a lot of people here because we've been having a Memorial Day parade in Sharpsburg since like the end of the Civil War. It was fine with me because I hate parades. And I live right on the parade route, so I especially hate parades that run right by my house, making it impossible for me to leave if I want to or have to. But that decision didn't sit well with some of my fellow townsfolk who decided to get together and have the parade anyway. It was short, thankfully, but the crowd that gathered outside to watch, while not nearly as large as typical for an official Memorial Day parade around here, still amounted to dozens of people lined all up and down the street, which is a lot for this small town. Our town population is a couple of hundred people, so if you get a couple of dozen people out in a crowd, that's a big crowd for this town. And I saw maybe 2 face masks from my vantage point. And for full disclosure, my vantage points for watching this thrown together ad hoc parade were inside my apartment looking out my window, and later outside standing in my parking lot far away from everyone else. I saw 2 face masks the entire time. I suppose doing everything we can to push the U.S. COVID-19 death total past 100,000 today is one way to celebrate Memorial Day. And actually, now that I think about it, it may be the most American way to do that. Number 2, Karl Rove attacks Obama for commencement speech. So a little over a week ago, former President Barack Obama gave some short speeches on video to 2020 high school graduates and also graduates of historically black colleges and universities as part of virtual commencement broadcasts that had been organized because they can't gather together and have their graduations in person because of COVID-19. In both speeches, Obama makes references to how the coronavirus pandemic has revealed how inept and inadequate so many of our leaders are. In both speeches, Obama speaks about how some of the people in charge aren't even pretending to know what they're doing. He makes no specific mention of Donald Trump or even of the Republican Party. So, of course, the supporters of Donald Trump immediately seized on this as an outrageous personal attack and went on TV to whine about it. For example, Republican strategist, I'll say it like I know what the word means, and guy who scared people into voting for George W. Bush by telling them John McCain had a black baby. Remember that Karl Rove did? Because he did that in 2000. Karl Rove, who appeared on Fox News following Obama's commencement speeches and called them, quote, political drive-by shootings. Again, Obama's remarks contained no partisan political statements of any kind. Yes, it's obvious who he's talking about when he says, quote, a lot of so-called grown-ups, including some with fancy titles and important jobs, still think like little kids, which is why things are so screwed up, unquote. But Trump and Rove and everyone else who is pretending to be outraged on Trump's behalf, who apparently expect Obama to just sit there and be quiet while Trump's ineptitude and shameless selfishness continue to enable the deaths of Americans, need to realize something. And it's the thing they always seem to leave out of their how the opposition ought to treat Trump equation. Trump is a terrible president. He's not just a president they disagree with politically. He's not just a president who does things in a different way than they would or has different priorities than they think the president should have. Trump is the worst president this country has ever had by far. Not just in terms of policy, though he is that too. Not just in terms of basic, simple competence, though, again, he is also the worst in that way by several light years. He's the worst president this country has ever had in terms of being a leader, a role model, the embodiment of the country itself. There is nothing about him that reflects what we say our values are. He has no honor. He exhibits no honesty or courage or willingness to take responsibility for things. He displays no selflessness, no generosity, seems to care nothing for anyone who can't do something to help him personally. He views everything as a transaction. He judges everyone first and foremost on how nice they are to him and how willing they are to tell him what he wants to hear. He's ignorant and petty and bigoted and short-tempered and childish and monstrously egotistical. In other words, he is the perfect reflection of the values we actually have as a people, but he's the antithesis of everything we tell ourselves we're supposed to be, everything we are taught from birth to strive to be as people. And you can't expect those of us who see him for who and what he truly is to just sit around and keep our mouths shut about it because he's the president. The fact that Trump is who he is and is also the president is precisely what makes it imperative for people like Barack Obama to speak out against him more often and in far more explicit terms than he has done so far. And Karl Rove and the others who are salty over what Obama said know this, which is why they're so salty about it to begin with. In his speech to high school graduates, Obama goes on to urge them to ground themselves in values like honesty, hard work, responsibility, fairness, generosity, respect for others. No wonder Trump's sycophants saw that as a personal attack on their guy. Number 3, McConnell forced to walk back lie about Obama pandemic preparedness. So about 2 weeks ago, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was interviewed by Laura Trump during an online campaign event. McConnell responded to reports that Obama had privately called the Trump administration's pandemic response an absolute chaotic disaster by saying Obama should have kept his mouth shut. See the previous segment for my thoughts on that. And claiming, quote, the Obama administration did not leave this administration any kind of game plan for something like this. Now, this is a false statement, and everyone outside of the Trump bubble should immediately recognize it as false. Not only did Trump destroy the pandemic response teams that were in place when he took office after Obama left, the Obama administration left behind a 69-page document containing procedures and recommendations for how to respond to a pandemic like the one we're facing right now. McConnell did subsequently go on Fox News Channel and say that he was, quote, wrong to say that the Obama administration had not left behind a plan. He characterized his remarks to Lara Trump as a mistake, but that's not what they were. McConnell wasn't innocently wrong. He wasn't misinformed. He wasn't mistaken. He was willfully lying. He's been the leader of the Republicans in the U.S. Senate since 2007. He's been one of the most powerful politicians in Washington, D.C. for almost 20 years. And he's been a senator overall for over 35 years. You can't tell me he just plumb didn't know that the Obama administration had a pandemic response plan. And even if he somehow didn't know about it while Obama was in office, he's worked very closely with Trump since Trump assumed the presidency in January 2017. So he damn well knew about it at some point after that. He went into that interview with Lara Trump. He knew he was speaking to Trump supporters, trying to get them all stirred up for the election campaign, and he told them what they wanted to hear. He told them poor old Donald Trump is just doing the best he can because Obama didn't set him up with any idea what to do in a situation like this. He did what Trump supporters do. He lied. He's a liar who lies to cover the ass of another liar. That's who he is. That's what he does. And he's not the only one. Number 4, Fox News Channel continues to feature irresponsible COVID-19 coverage. Fox News Channel's response to COVID-19 has been awful since the pandemic began. In fact, its reckless and willfully ignorant coverage is one of the reasons millions of Americans didn't realize there was a pandemic until months after it actually began, and why many of them are still denying that there is one right now. Some of the channel's highest rated personalities, such as Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, spent most of February and March downplaying the threat of COVID-19, pushing conspiracy theories about its origins or the motivations of people, sounding the alarm about it, pushing Trump's no big deal, it'll magically go away by itself in April narrative. More recently, Fox News has continued to help Trump, although they haven't been helping him enough to suit Trump, and I'll get to more on that in the next segment, by helping to promote his Obamagate paranoid delusion, supporting efforts to end social distancing measures prematurely, and continuing to downplay the seriousness of the outbreak. A little over a week ago, Eric Trump, and when I refer to Eric, I would call him the Fredo of the family, but that doesn't quite work because Vito liked Fredo, appeared on Jeanine Pirro's Fox News show where he suggested that Democrats are pushing to maintain social distancing restrictions in order to prevent his father from holding campaign rallies. Eric also echoed his father's conspiracy theories about mail-in voting being rife with fraud. It's not. Democrats trying to get illegal immigrants to vote. They aren't. And host Pirro mostly agreed and reiterated Eric's points, you know, like the host of a show on a channel with news in its name ought to do. 2 days after that, Fox News ran a story celebrating the owners of a New Jersey gym who were reopening in defiance of their state's stay-at-home order. I'm sure loyal Fox and Friends viewer Donald Trump appreciated that, although there was this one lady in the background of the crowd gathered in front of the gym who was wearing a Trump 2020 sweatshirt. So I'm not sure if Trump even knew what the segment was about. He probably didn't notice anything or wasn't able to pay attention to anything on TV other than the lady wearing the sweatshirt with his name on it in the background, because that's just how he rolls. And now it's time for the segment devoted to some of the other things Donald Trump has done recently to disgrace the presidency and embarrass and or endanger the United States and the rest of the world. It's number 5, the further misadventures of Lord Dampnut. Please keep in mind, the following is not a complete list. So, yeah, despite its years of shameless pandering, offering him an unchallenged platform to spew whatever horseshit is on his mind whenever he wants, pushing his ignorant and dangerous narratives, Fox News Channel is on Donald Trump's shit list because apparently it's not sycophantic enough. Last week, Trump tweeted, "Fox News is doing nothing to help Republicans and me get reelected on November 3rd. He's angry that a supposed news network isn't helping him get reelected. And he's not saying this in private like a classy evil president, Nixon, for example, would have. I mean, Nixon would probably say something like that, but he'd say it in private in the Oval Office, and you wouldn't even hear about it until 30 years later when they declassified the transcripts of the secret tapes. And then finally, you would hear Nixon going, "I wish these cocksuckers at Fox News would get with the program." But he wouldn't tweet it. You wouldn't hear Nixon say it right as he was saying it. Trump is saying this stuff in public, in the moment, and he's soliciting applause for saying it. And last time I checked, that tweet has over 100,000 likes. So it worked. Christ. Moving on, he threatened to withhold funding. What kind of funding? He didn't say. He probably doesn't know. From the state of Michigan after the state government sent applications for absentee ballots to registered voters, calling the act illegal. Trump said it was illegal for the Secretary of State of Michigan to do this. The Secretary of State is in charge of running elections. And she sent applications for ballots to registered voters ahead of an election. How is that illegal? Trump says it was done without authorization, but what authorization does he think was needed? Again, he didn't say. He doesn't know. He announced he's been taking hydroxychloroquine to protect himself against the coronavirus, despite the fact that there is still no evidence that the drug provides any benefits relating to the coronavirus, and also the possibility of deadly side effects if the drug is taken improperly. Come on, deadly side effects! Finally, someone in the Trump administration I can root for. Oh, come on. Speaking of crackpot coronavirus medicine, last week CBS News reported that the Trump campaign is actively searching for doctors who will publicly support him, his administration's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and his efforts to end the lockdown and reopen the economy. According to CBS, the campaign has identified 27, quote, extremely pro-Trump doctors who are ready to speak out on Trump's behalf. As someone familiar with the tactics of creationists and 9/11 truthers, I've seen this play before. Here's a relative handful of experts who believe our story. Now let's pretend their opinions carry more weight than the thousands and thousands and thousands of people with comparable expertise who think they're full of shit. And I'm sure it'll work like gangbusters with Trump supporters, many of whom are probably creationists and 9/11 truthers already. He announced that he will not close down the country again after it reopens, even if the coronavirus comes roaring back. Of course, it wasn't actually really up to him the first time, and it won't be up to him the second time if that happens. Governors issued stay-at-home orders, not the president. Nobody asked him. Nobody's probably going to ask him if it needs to happen again, and that's for the best for everybody. He refused to wear a face mask for most of his visit to a Ford manufacturing plant in Michigan, despite the fact that everyone else on the tour with him wore masks, claiming that he didn't want to give the media the pleasure of seeing him in a mask, but insisting that he did have one on earlier and, quote, it looked nice. He promoted a conspiracy theory claiming that MSNBC host Joe Scarborough murdered a woman who was his intern when he was a member of Congress. The woman died in Scarborough's district office in 2001. Her death was investigated and ruled accidental, and there's no evidence Scarborough had anything to do with it. Just yesterday, Trump tweeted, "Schools in our country should be reopened ASAP. Much very good information now available," unquote. Among the very good information which Trump apparently missed is the fact that most districts in the country have already canceled school for the rest of the year. Plus, the school year is basically over for most of the country anyway. It's Memorial Day. So it would be far more disruptive at this point to suddenly call students back than it would be to just let schools remain closed and work on solutions for what to do when the new school year starts in the fall, when there may be a brand new explosion of coronavirus to deal with, because in the meantime, Trump will have pressured governors, and clueless Republican governors on their own will have reopened states prematurely. He gave a speech in Allentown, Pennsylvania, where he once again insisted that COVID-19 testing is overrated. We're at 100,000 certified deaths, and the president is still suggesting that COVID-19 testing is overrated. And he said, quote, when you test, you find something is wrong with people. If we didn't do any testing, we would have very few cases. He openly, unashamedly doesn't care about the people who are actually sick and dying. He only cares about how it looks and how that reflects on him personally. He doesn't want more testing because the more they test, the more cases they find, and the worse he looks. And I can say that with confidence because that's what Trump himself has said publicly over and over again. That is so short-sighted and childish. But then again, almost everything he says and does is short-sighted and childish. We should start calling that the Donald double. He announced his intention to withdraw the U.S. from the Open Skies Treaty, which allows signatories to conduct unarmed aerial surveillance of each other in the interest of transparency. Trump's excuse is that Russia hasn't abided by the terms of the treaty, so why should we? I totally get why he was so personally stung by Obama's "this is how little children think" line from that commencement speech. Democrats in Congress say Trump didn't inform Congress of his intention to withdraw from the treaty within the required period of notice, which is required by law, meaning his withdrawal from the Clear Skies Treaty is not only short-sighted and childish, but illegal, also known as the Trump triple. And finally, just today, on Memorial Day, he threatened to move this summer's scheduled Republican National Convention from Charlotte, North Carolina, to another location if the governor of North Carolina cannot guarantee that the shutdown will be lifted by the time the convention takes place. North Carolina is currently in the process of reopening, but Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, who is a Democrat, I know I'm as surprised as you are, responded by saying, quote, North Carolina is relying on data and science to protect our state's public health and safety. Oh my God. Seriously? Another political drive-by shooting. How dare these Democrats use the president's sober and sensible comments about the upcoming convention as an excuse to attack him in such an outrageous and grossly personal way. Data and science? They've been biased against President Trump from the very beginning. Well, that's all, folks. Stay tuned in a minute or so for the post show after the fade to black. But for now, that's 5. Speak out, act out, resist, look after each other. Here we are once again. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Thanks to those of you who have stuck around for the post show. This is the unscripted, unplanned portion of the show. So those of you who tune in just for sort of the proper Facepalm 5 bit, that bit is over. I'm just going to be shooting the shit and hanging out with people in the live chat. So if you're not interested in this bit, please feel free to stop watching now. But for those of you who are sticking around, let's talk in the live chat for a little while. But first, before I get too far into things, I want to offer some shout outs to some of my newest Patreon patrons. So let's do that right now, shall we? Let me move over so you can still see my smiling face. And of course, it froze right as I was getting ready to do that. So let's, let me actually, I'm probably out of sync now. So let me go out and come right back. I'll be right back. This is real. This is real, state of the art stuff. I'll be right back. Porter, thank you, Alan. Rob Chauncey, thank you, Rob. Darth Muppet, thank you, Darth. Patrick Wilson, thank you, Patrick. Leo Bazalski, thank you, Leo. Nonstop Pop, thank you, Nonstop Pop. Ananda Billings, thank you, Ananda. NH5316, thank you, NH5316. Daryl Ballard, thank you, Daryl. Zaraxis, thank you, Zaraxis. Isaac, thank you, Isaac. Chip Salzenberg, thank you, Chip. Marcus B, thank you, Marcus. Dr. Claire and Randy Owens, thank you, Claire and Randy. Dr. Claire and Randy. Dan Humiston, thank you, Dan. And Charlie Schiarilli, thank you, Charlie. Thanks to everybody who is my patron at whatever level you happen to be a patron. $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month, whatever level you're currently pledging. $5 a month or more gets you a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5, just like those folks. But patronage of any amount is extremely appreciated and it allows me to continue to do what I do. So if you enjoy what I do here on YouTube, whether it's this stuff or the Star Trek videos or Steven stuff or the Whirlpool or whatever, you can go to patreon.com/Steve Shives to support my work with a pledge that you can afford. And if it's $5 a month or more, you get yourself a shout out at the end of the Facepalm 5 and also at the end of a Trek Actually video. So there you go. Now let's see what's going on in the live chat. How is everybody doing? Yes, I'm glad to see that I am once again in sync. I'm gratified that seems to work when I sort of shut down the live stream and then turn it right back on. So hopefully that's a good solution from here on. It's awkward and it sucks, but it's better than being out of sync for the whole thing. Some Random Geek, yes, the Patreon Hangout is this coming weekend. Yes, the final Sunday of the month. Oh, Vian00 says, I recently did an article about Picard and used your video about Starfleet being the bad guy. Well, thank you. That's really cool. I'm glad that people seem to really like that video. Yeah, I think that turned out to be a pretty good video. 255 AD says, is there any chance of Lance actually guesting on Late Seating? I'd love that, but I don't think you guys ever really have guests. Yeah, they're referring to, I was a guest of Lance from the Surfs on the Surfs Twitch stream. Friday, wasn't it? Yeah. And God, that was a ton of fun. It was real awesome to hang out with Lance. Lance is a really good dude. And, yeah, he mentioned, when I plugged the podcast, he said, you should have me on the podcast. Probably not. Because as you point out, the format is we don't really have guests on the podcast. So probably not, but I would love to do something to collaborate with Lance in some way at some point in the future. I think that would be really fun. Probably not on the on the Late Seating podcast, but at some point, I would love to do something with Lance. I got a super chat here from Murray Zillar, who says, Cumgate is trending in the UK. I recommend looking into it for comic relief and to see we're having the same Orwellian scandals as you guys. Is that about the guy in Boris Johnson's government who broke the social distancing rules? And his name is Cummings. Is that why it's called Cumgate? I've been paying sort of attention to that. I don't know all of the details of that, but I've kind of sort of been paying attention to that. So I'm aware of it. I didn't notice. I guess maybe I haven't been paying enough attention on Twitter, but I didn't notice that it was called Cumgate. But that's great. That's perfect. Precambrian Lullaby is here. Hi. And Jesse Gender too. Hey, Jesse. And Jesse, I'm going to get back to you about that script you sent me on Twitter. I need a chance to really sit down and read it. I looked over it just briefly, and it looks like something that I want to do if I can figure out the costuming for my end. But I want to read it over a little bit more carefully. But yes, I will totally. I'm totally in for doing that. Let me see here. Death Star says Steven Stuffy is severely underappreciated. Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, Steven Stuffy is my favorite thing that I do, so I appreciate you saying that. Joe McClory says, "Do you know if there's video of your talk with Lance?" I don't know. I don't have it. If there is, it might be archived on the Surf's Twitch channel, but I haven't checked. I don't know. Jamie Martin says, "Will you cover the Orville?" I'll probably do a review video or something about it when the new season comes out. I've done review videos of it in the past of the previous seasons, so I'll probably talk about it. I'm going to watch it whenever the new season comes out, so I'll probably talk about it. Yeah. Yeah, I know 25580. I keep getting the pronunciation of the name wrong. I apologize. Oh, some random geek. Is it? I guess it is archived on the Surf's Twitch channel. That's awesome. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Dark Lighter says, "I had a discussion with my wife earlier wherein I alleged that the director of Joe versus the Volcano should have directed the 50 Shades movie." Who directed Joe versus the Volcano? Oh, he's like a director of No, it's not who I was thinking of. I was thinking of somebody else, not John Patrick Shanley. I was thinking of somebody else. Who was I thinking of? I don't know. I have no idea who I thought that was, but it's not who I was thinking of. But yeah, I think it would have made the movie more interesting. Secular Scholar says, "What is love?" I don't know what love is, because I am a smart man. See, Forrest Gump was not a smart man, but he did know what love was. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Some random geek. How do you feel about the war crimes Obama committed? Not a fan. Not a fan. Says the guy with an Obama action figure on his microphone. By the way, this is for Memorial Day. This is because the last good president, the action figure of the last good president has joined us for the Memorial Day celebration. 255 AD says, "Is Michael Worley a Christian fascist?" I think he could certainly be described as such, yes. I think that is, of the many things that Michael Worley is, I think a Christian fascist would certainly be one of the things that Michael Worley is. Absolutely. He's certainly, I mean, we can get into, the details of what is or isn't a fascist. He's certainly an authoritarian. He's certainly a dominionist. Some darn guy, do you want to know what love is? I want you to show me. Jesse makes the "What is love, baby, don't hurt me." I thought about that, and then I just went to Forrest Gump. I don't know. I guess that says something about me. Some random geek. Good information. Most Twitch streams are kept up on the user's channel for 14 days. I did not know that, because I don't do anything on Twitch. Like, unless somebody invites me to be on their Twitch stream, and if it's someone that I like and I have time, I'm like, yeah, sure, absolutely. I do absolutely nothing with Twitch, so I didn't know that. So thank you for the info. Nicholas Gross says, "Can't all U.S. presidents be accused of war crimes in some way or another?" Yeah, probably. If not all, then I would say I would be comfortable saying most, because we've had a very dark history in the United States, haven't we? My Magnificent Octopus says, "I'm surprised Trump didn't wish us a happy super duper Memorial Day. Memorial Day this year is the best Memorial Day ever. Everybody's talking about how amazing it is. and how happy they are that I'm the president on this most amazing Memorial Day ever. The ratings are huge. Everybody's watching. Everybody's tweeting. Everybody's talking about how great Memorial Day is, and everybody loves Trump. Oh, partners of Twitch can keep up their old streams for 60 days. Now that is some quality Twitch information. Thank you for that. Ensign House says, I don't think the Founding Fathers anticipated someone running into their late 70s. I don't think the Founding Fathers anticipated most people being alive in their late 70s, although a few of the Founding Fathers were fairly long-lived. Ben Franklin, I think, lived into his 80s, didn't he? And didn't Thomas Jefferson live to a ripe old age? But yeah, generally speaking, they probably weren't expecting most people to even be alive in their 70s, let alone ready to run for president and lead the country. Deralta Trekkie says, I watched 1.5 episodes of The Orville and have to admit I'm not a big fan and I don't get why people call it the new Star Trek. I will say I think The Orville has gotten a lot better as it has gone on. The early episodes, I can see why you would think that. In the first couple of episodes, and actually really for most of the first season, I felt like it really struggled to find the balance between the jokey jokes and trying to do drama and have characters that you would be engaged with. I think the second season, they found that balance a lot better. And the second season of The Orville was actually, I thought, was really good. But the first season, especially in the early episodes of that first season, I completely agree. I think the humor, it was in this weird place where it either felt like a funny show that was trying too hard to be serious, or a drama that had jokes tacked on for no reason other than we're the sci-fi show with jokes, right? And I think second season it struck that balance a lot better. So, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, concerned onlooker. Yes, that's right. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams did die on the very same day, July 4th, right? Was it July? I was going to say 1800, but it wasn't 1800 because Jefferson was still president. Or Jefferson was running for president, wasn't he? In 1800, the election of 1800. But yeah, it was later than that. But yeah, they both died. They both died on July 4th in the same day. Joe McClory, all the dead soldiers would think I am the best president ever. Yes, absolutely. Ensign House says upper age limit of 65. I'm not going to fight you on it, but I disagree. I don't think we need an upper age limit. I do agree with the general idea that I would prefer to see younger people running for office, and especially younger people running for president. Not because I feel like older people aren't capable or shouldn't be trusted to do it, but just because I feel like, younger people tend to be more progressive. Younger people tend to be bolder and willing to take risks and willing to take chances and willing to support more extensive reforms. And I just think that's what we need right now. And I would just, assuming it's the right a young person with good ideas, a young person who would be a good president, I would love to see a person in their 40s, let's say, be running for president versus Donald Trump instead of another person in his 70s. But that's what we've got. So, but I don't support an upper age limit. And I think I caught a glimpse of someone further up in the chat making reference to ageism. And yeah, I don't think someone should be disqualified for being president on the sole basis of how old they are. I think that's discriminatory. Deralta Trekkie says, I have nothing against jokey jokes. I have something against jokes that deal with bodily functions. Well, there are some bodily function jokes in the Orville. Some random geek says, where are Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden during the pandemic? How well do you think they responded to the crisis? I think compared to Trump, I think they were amazing. Were they as good as I wish they were? I think Biden did a good thing by modeling responsible behavior and staying home most of the time. And just today, I saw pictures of him going out to lay a wreath on a grave for Memorial Day, and he and his wife had masks on and were doing social distancing. So I think that's good to model that behavior for people. And Pelosi has been wearing masks in public and doing stuff like that. But I mean, are they doing as much as I wish they would? I mean, especially Pelosi, since she is in a very influential position as a legislator. I would love to see her whipping the Democrats to support more progressive stuff in the relief bills. You know, even though I do understand her pragmatic point of saying, like, well, I'm not going to put stuff in the bill that the Republicans in the Senate are just going to shoot down. But I would like to at least see her voicing a support, even if that stuff doesn't wind up in the final bill just because it wouldn't pass. I would love to see her voicing more support and making that more of a norm in the party, to say we should be pushing for larger payments, more frequent payments, you know, healthcare reform, more widespread testing, more widespread contact tracing, that sort of stuff. I would love to see her doing more than she's doing. But she's doing better than Trump. And that's a very, very low bar, because Trump is doing next to nothing. But yeah, I would love to see her do more. Christy says, is it possible to get the timeline fixed? Sam Beckett screwed up. Where is Sam Beckett, by the way? I mean, I know he's not supposed to fix big picture stuff. Like, part of the premise of Quantum Leap was he goes in and he sort of changes individual people's lives, and he doesn't change history like on the large scale for the better. He changes small scale history for the better. But like, come on, if ever you were going to break a rule, like, now's the time, Sam. Sam, you're not going to leap until you prevent the Trump presidency, Sam. I think this needs to be one of those episodes where Al attempts to mislead Sam into doing something that he hasn't actually been sent here to do, but that it's still the right thing and it's something that needs to be done. And Al just kind of shines him on a little bit. Secular Scholar, what's your favorite candy? Nonpareils, also known as snow caps. I love those. I could eat a bucket of those fucking things. Yes, Jesse, he jumped into the body of the captain of the NX-01. Exactly. He jumped too far ahead. He jumped like 200 years ahead. We need him back here. He's way up in the future. Yeah, he fixed the wrong person's life, and look where we are now. Exactly. Some darn guy says. Bernard Gilbert says, what is it that Democrats have against progressives? I honestly think it's down to they think if the party becomes too progressive, it will hurt their electability. I think that's the long and short of it. I think that's behind why Biden is unwilling to fully embrace more progressive reforms. I think that's why Pelosi is reluctant to embrace and empower the progressive wing of the party. I think it's all down to they have this very pragmatic view that they think is right and they think is very smart, that tells them if the party goes too far to the left, or if the party becomes too progressive, that it will hurt their electability. And then they won't be able to accomplish anything. Then it'll be in the hands of the Republicans, who will be dragging things in the exact opposite direction. So I don't know about that. I feel like the party, I mean, there may be a point where the party gets too progressive and it does hurt their electability, but I don't think they're anywhere near that point right now. I think the Democratic Party can comfortably move to the left quite a bit from where the mainstream of the party is now, and it would not hurt their electability, especially with how far right the Republicans have become. But that, I think, is what's behind it. And Nicholas Gross, what do progressives have against Democrats? I think it's the opposite. I think it's that they feel like they're not wanted. They feel resented. They feel like they're not being listened to. They feel like Democrats aren't bold enough, that Democrats are too cowardly or too centrist or too moderate. Gargamel Gold, Super Chat, thank you very much. And the question is, what should we do if Trump wins come November? Well, first, have a good cry. Maybe scream. Make sure that you and your friends and family and people you care about are okay. And then, if at all possible, get back to work. Get back to work fighting him and fighting those who support him. And working on electing someone else, work on electing better people to your local and state and district offices for the next election and work on nominating and electing someone to beat the Republican candidate next time around. Ayelmar super chat, thank you very much. Says they're hoping to win over moderates. After all, repugnantkins consider progressive to be an expletive. Yeah, that's true. There are a lot of Democrats, a lot of centrist and moderate Democrats who I think, as a leftover from the Bill Clinton era of triangulation, have still got this idea that in order to win, especially in order to win on the national level, that they have to appeal to Republicans. And I think that is absolutely wrongheaded. I think that's a waste of time, especially considering how far to the right the Republican Party has gone. I think it's a waste of time for Democrats to be moderating their own policies in an attempt to win Republicans. I don't think we need Republicans to win national elections, and I think it hurts the party and it hurts the progress that we can make if we do win, if we allow ourselves to be dragged to the right in the hope of attracting Republicans, because I just don't think it's going to work, and I don't think it's necessary anyway. Yeah, Jesse Gender, same. Yeah, Gargamel Golds, keep fighting. Yeah, well, I mean, what else can we do? And some random geek. This is a good point too. We need to keep fighting if Joe Biden wins too. Absolutely, we do. Suppose the assault at 255 AD says, suppose the assault allegations came out 12 months later. Would you be in favor of impeaching Biden over it? Possibly, yeah. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. I would have been in favor of the party saying that the allegations disqualified Biden from getting the nomination and insisting that the nomination go to someone else. Yeah, absolutely. I think being credibly accused of sexual assault ought to be an impeachable offense. Dataport Doll says, it's just fallout from 1968 when the Democrats had more success winning over George Wallace voters than the left. If only someone did a video on that. Shameless plug. Yeah, someone should do a video on that. Nicholas Gross, maybe it isn't an impeachable offense, but I'm saying I wouldn't have a problem with it. If somebody said Biden has been credibly accused of sexual assault, let's impeach him for it, like, I would not necessarily be against that. I mean, sexual assault is a serious crime. I mean, if you can prove that the president did it or in all likelihood did it, you know, and especially if you have a vice president right over there who has never been accused of it, like, let's do this. Let's get this over with, you know. Oh, hey, Phoenix. Welcome. Neil Blumengarten says, what's the future of the Republican Party in general, but especially if Trump loses in November? I'm not one optimistic enough to believe they'd be done for. No, I don't think they'll be done for. I don't think they'll be done for. I would like to hope that they will suffer greatly in terms of their status as a national party. Maybe their influence will wane for a generation. Maybe the Democrats will have another nice chunk of time where they will be able to gain control of Congress, of both houses of Congress and of a lot of state legislatures, and maybe have, you know, maybe 2 Democratic presidents in a row, and we can actually push some things forward and accomplish a few things in terms of reform before everybody forgets about how shitty the Republicans are and they're allowed to come roaring back. But yeah, I would like to think that they will sort of be sent off into the corner for a little while. But yeah, I don't think it'll be the end of them. Unfortunately, it should be. Just the mere fact that they have clung so closely to Trump and supported Trump so shamelessly throughout his utter disaster of an administration ought to be enough cause to say, okay, you don't get to be a major party anymore. Like, I would love to think that the American people would repudiate them to such an extent that they would cease to be a major party. That's what should happen, but that's not going to happen. MC3PO says, which is more true, Biden losing object permanence faster or Trump gaining object permanence slower? That's funny. Oh, Cobalt JBG says, Steve, you single-handedly inspired me to first-time binge watch Voyager and Enterprise. Thanks for all the Star Trek love. Oh, cool. I hope you liked it. I hope you enjoyed it. I need to binge watch Enterprise. I haven't seen. I went through Voyager a couple years ago, which for most of those episodes, it was the first time I'd watched them since they had originally aired. But I have not done that yet with Enterprise. I should go back and just run through Enterprise on Netflix or CBS All Access to refresh my memory on that show, because it's been a very long time since I watched Enterprise, like straight through like that. Davlin Gage Sphere says, let's say Biden wins, gets a progressive VP, and he either does the 25th Amendment in year 2. Would you be fine with that progressive figure? Like, would I be fine with Biden being removed from office in year 2 and the progressive vice president taking over? Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? Absolutely. That's the way the system's supposed to work. If the president turns out to not be fit for office and the president is removed either by impeachment or 25th Amendment or whatever, then the vice president takes over. And if he has a progressive VP, so much the better. Ultra Trekkie, he says, you're not a big fan of Captain Catherine the Janeway, eh? I think Kate Mulgrew is fantastic, and I think she did as good of a job with that character during those 7 seasons as anybody could have. And whatever good qualities or admirable qualities that Janeway has, I think are probably down to her performance and whatever semblance of character she was able to inject into that character. But Janeway is just so badly written for most of that series and so erratically written that it's hard to like her. Like, it's hard for me. There's nothing about her that I feel like I can grab onto and say, that's who she is and that's what I like about her, because she's just all over the place. But I think Kate Mulgrew was terrific. Super chat from Vovacat17. Hey, Steve, are you excited for the upcoming SpaceX Crew Dragon launch? It is a huge milestone. I think those guys get us closer to the Federation. Yes, I am. I am excited about it. I'm not a huge fan of private space flight taking the place of publicly funded space flight like that, or of government space flight. I feel like, it should be NASA and NASA rockets flying American astronauts and whoever else wants to come along to the space station, not contracted out to a private company to take care of it. But I'm excited about it, and it is a milestone. And, I wish them the best. And if that's what it takes to get us traveling back to space on a more regular basis and setting us up to eventually finally move beyond the space station and move beyond low Earth orbit again and go back to the moon and go to Mars and explore the rest of the solar system, I'm all for it. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I wish it was NASA like the old days, but I'll take what I can get. John Ginker says, Janeway likes coffee. I think that's the character trait they were going for. Well, in that case, I am 100% Team Janeway, because we have that in common, because I like coffee too. 255 AD says, oh, this is a depressing question. If he loses, do you think Trump will run again in 2024? He'll try to do like a Grover Cleveland. God, I hope not. You know what? He's so egotistical that he might, because if he loses and he's still alive next time around, I feel like he might, because he's that much of a self-centered asshole. So yeah, maybe, but God, I hope not. Super chat from Zeraxis, thank you very much, says, I think there's definitely a perception issue within the leading Democrats at this point. A lot of progressive policy isn't hugely progressive. It's just sane policy or a want for policy to be enforced. I agree. I agree completely. One of the things I wished, I think I said this to Ashley, when we were watching the last debate, the last Democratic debate, which feels like a million years ago because it was before the COVID thing really took hold. And I remember saying to her, I wish that Bernie would do a better job of making the point that he's not actually pushing for anything revolutionary, because Bernie has often, he's used the language of, we want a political revolution. We want to bring a revolution to Washington, D.C. And it's like, he's not actually calling for a revolution. And most of his ideas, in fact, I think all of his ideas, they're not revolutionary. They would be major reforms compared to what we have now, but they're not revolutionary. And I wish that Sanders and Warren and other progressive candidates would make a better point of that. I wish they would say, this might be a big change compared to what we have now, and the Republicans over there might want you to believe that it's some kind of radical revolution, some kind of socialist takeover. But the fact is, most of the rest of the world has done these things that we want to do here already. Universal health care is not a revolutionary thing. Like reforming the way we generate energy, going to clean, renewable energy instead of fossil fuel. Like this is not a radical, revolutionary thing. Raising the minimum wage, guaranteeing paid sick leave, guaranteeing childcare, guaranteeing women the right to have abortions if they want them. Like these are not revolutionary, radical proposals. These are progressive proposals that are just sane, common sense, humane policies that should be the bedrock, the basis that we all agree upon. Like these shouldn't be. Why is climate change a partisan political issue? Why is paying workers fair wages a partisan political issue? So I wish that the progressive candidates would do a better job about that, because I agree with you completely. It's not revolutionary. It's just common sense. And I saw another super chat. Let me go back and find it here. From John Gingras. If Trump loses, he better be in prison in 2024. I agree with that. Oh, Jesus. That would be nice. He's committed many crimes. It would be nice to see him prosecuted for one or two of them. Oh, they're all Trekkie. Yeah, no, that was a misunderstanding. If he loses this time, he could run again because he will only have served one term. He can run as many times as he wants. And if he loses this time, because he only served one term, he could still come back and try to get that second term later. Once you have 2 terms, you can't have more than 2 terms. But they do not have to be consecutive terms. Another super chat from Vovacat. Thank you again. The biggest achievement of SpaceX is getting all those young people excited with space again. I remember Falcon Heavy Tesla. Publicity stunt? Yes, but my whole university was watching and cheering. Yeah, I agree. And that's a great point. And that is something that I'm not I'm all in favor of that, because I would love to see people. I would love to see people in general and young people in particular, because they're going to carry this into the future, be more excited and more engaged with the idea of human space travel, because I think that's a wonderful thing. And so I agree with you on that. If SpaceX and the other private space companies can get people excited about going to space, I think that's terrific. Der Alta Trekkie, does that mean that Hillary Clinton could try to run again for office? Oh, yes, absolutely. Hillary has never served one term as president. So, yeah, Hillary, constitutionally speaking, Hillary could run for president again whenever she wants, because she has never served one term, let alone 2. Yeah, I don't think she's going to. I think Hillary's done as a political candidate. But, yeah, she could. Absolutely. Yes, there's nothing legally to prevent her from running and from occupying the office if she wins. Super chat from John Burns. Thank you. The Democrats, you can't work during COVID-19. The NFL, we've got 6 billion reasons why. Yeah. It's funny how, I read, I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were talking about baseball, Major League Baseball, trying to sort of find its way to a way to have to play half of a season this year and to play sort of in a bubble league where everybody gets tested and there's a very limited contact with the outside world from the players and the staff of the teams, and play in stadiums that are empty, that don't have fans. And as sort of a side note in this story, they said, oh, and so far the NFL is planning to just have a regular season in the fall. Like the NFL apparently has no contingency plan whatsoever for COVID-19. They're just like, oh, we don't start again until the fall. I'm sure this will all be taken care of by then. We're just going to have a football season. So, oh boy, it's going to be September in terms of COVID-19. September is going to be a very interesting month in the United States, a very interesting month, because I think a lot of people are just sort of assuming that this will all sort itself out and we'll be out of the woods by the end of summer, if not long before that. And I just don't know if that's going to happen. I hope that's the case. I hope by September or October, that we're back to a point where we can, if not be normal, be more or less normal. But I just don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people are really underestimating how long this is going to be, especially given how irresponsible we have been treating it to date. Deralta Trekkie says, when would be a good time for Michelle Obama to run for office? I think if she ran this year, she might have had a chance. If she runs next time, she would have it. I think in terms of her popularity and her ability to get elected, she's an incredibly popular, respected figure in this country. So if she did want to run for office, I think she would have a really good chance of getting elected. I just don't think she wants to run for office. 255 AD says, do you think the Dems would just be like, well, they didn't get rid of Trump, we're not going to get rid of our guy if the Biden thing came out a year late? Yeah, sure. There would be some Democrats who would think that. Absolutely. There are some Democrats who think that about Al Franken still. There are some Democrats who are still sore that Al Franken resigned as a result of the allegations made against him. They still think, and part of that is, well, the Republicans don't force anybody to resign, and Al Franken was a good senator. How comes we had him resign and the Republicans never do that? Which again is a very sort of ruthless, politically pragmatic argument. But I mean, at some point we have to be better than they are, right? Like at some point, if we want voters to support our party, and part of our argument is the Republican Party is corrupt and without principles and only cares about winning elections and consolidating power, at some point we as Democrats have to demonstrate that we're not like that. And I think Al Franken resigning from the Senate was a good thing, because I think the accusations made against him and his conduct warranted it. And yeah, he was a good senator, and it sucks that he did the things he did, which warranted his resignation, but that's the way it was. Deralta Trekkie says, we need a Star Trek captain who I could identify with, a guy who drinks cola. Maybe he could be from Germany and not be an asshole, because I'd be not fond of Captain Nazi jokes. Yeah, I would love to see a German character, like a German character in Star Trek. What's her name now? Detmer. Detmer, one of the Helm officers on Discovery, is, according to the show Bible, is from Dusseldorf. But I don't know if that has ever been established on screen. But if that is ever established, she would be the first major, or named like recurring Star Trek character in a series to be from Germany, which I think would be pretty cool. And yeah, a German captain would be great. Like a German captain who has like a German accent and is like identifiably German. That would be I would love that. That would be fantastic. I would love like Captain Angela Merkel or something like that, And to have it be not just a bunch of Nazi jokes. I agree. That would be tiresome and offensive. And the people of Germany today and Germany as a nation today, I think deserves better than that. Super chat from Quinn FTW76, but Al Franken didn't do anything illegal. What he was accused of was not a crime in Minnesota. I don't think anybody said it was a crime. I just think they said it was unbecoming of a person in his position and of his office. I don't think a sitting elected official should have to be convicted of a crime in order to be asked to or expected to resign their office. Like, I don't think that should be the standard. You know, and it's not the standard with the president. The Constitution does not say the president must be convicted of a crime before they can be removed from office. It's up to Congress to decide whether or not it is appropriate to remove the president from office. And yes, there has to be a trial in the Senate. And yes, there has to be a conviction of a sort, because the Senate has to sort of vote to convict, if you will, on the articles of impeachment. But the president does not then go to jail. The president is just removed from office. So it's not a criminal proceeding, and I don't think it has to be a criminal standard. So to say, but what Al Franken was accused of wasn't illegal, like, to me, that's beside the point. I don't remember most people arguing that it was illegal or that he should be criminally prosecuted. Just that it was completely inappropriate for a senator to behave that way, and it's better that he resign. And I agree. Yeah, Lord Toast said it'd be great to see a captain as identifiably German as Picard is identifiably French. Yes, or yeah, that's true. I mean, Picard is they do some work to establish Picard as being culturally French, although that's obviously a British guy on screen. But yes, his Frenchness is an important part of his character, despite his accent. John Burns Super Chat, thank you again, says, I agree that coronavirus isn't going away, he says, while living in a rural cabin in the woods with his mother, but how might it affect voting across the U.S. in November? Interesting concept that. The thing is, it doesn't have to affect voting all that much if we can just get enough states to get behind absentee voting, mail-in voting, like a lot of states are doing already. And some states do anyway. Like, is it Washington or Oregon? Some random geek, you might know this better than me because you're in the Pacific Northwest. I think it's either Washington or Oregon that does mail-in voting as a rule anyway. Like, that's sort of the normal way that elections are conducted. So it's not that unusual. And really, there are lots of reasons why it probably should just be that way anyway. I voted absentee in my state's primary election just last week. And that was, I didn't even have to, there was all that ruckus Trump raised hell about the government in Michigan sending voters applications for absentee ballots. Here in Maryland, we just got sent absentee ballots. Like, I didn't even ask for one. I just got one in the mail, and it said, here's your absentee ballot. You can use this to vote in the primary election coming up on June 2nd. And you just fill in the ballot, sign the back of the envelope, and mail it in, and boom, I voted. There's no reason why it can't be like that just in general, right? Like, why can't we just do that all the time, Oh, this is a good one. Super chat from Mare Zillar. How will SpaceX cope with a Challenger moment? I hope, God, or yeah, and Kaylee Hardy says, or an Apollo 1. Yeah, I mean, let's hope we never find out. Some random geek. Both states, Washington and Oregon, are mail-in ballots for all elections. Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like a really good way to go. And you could still do in-person polling places for people who would rather vote that way. But like the default, why not just mail a ballot to every registered voter and say, here's your ballot, mail it in by this date, and that's the election. Like, it's so easy. Why not do it that way? And why not automatically register people to vote as soon as they're eligible, which is another thing that I think some states do. Like, you don't have to register to vote if you meet the residency requirements and you you are of age, like after your 18th birthday, when you are eligible to vote, the state just automatically registers you. And you would have to take action if you move to another district or you move to another state, sure, to make sure that, you're still registered and you're registered in the proper area, but you're automatically registered as soon as you turn 18. Like, why don't we do that? If you'd had automatic registration and default mail-in voting, I feel like a lot of problems in our electoral system would be, if not outright solved, at least greatly reduced. Yeah, it's some random geek. I thought so. Washington State automatically. I think Washington was the state I was thinking of, because I knew that one of the Pacific Northwest states had automatic voter registration. And it's also a good point about the homeless population. Homeless people have a right to vote too. And there would have to be some kind of effort to make sure that homeless people are registered to vote and are able to vote if they want to vote as well. Oh, John Burns with another super chat. Trump also posted a tweet complaining about the Secretary of State in Nevada sending out applications for mail-in ballots and then realizing she was a Republican, deleting the tweet. Isn't that beautiful? And you know what's the best about that? The only confirmed instance of voter fraud having to do with absentee ballots in the last few years was perpetrated by Republicans in, was it South Carolina? Either North or South Carolina. Within the last few years, there was a voter fraud case where it was a Republican candidate doing illegal ballot harvesting using absentee ballots. So the only people who have actually done the things that Trump accuses the Democrats of trying to do are Republicans. Super chat from Kaylee Hardy. Thank you very much. Who says the government is, or the Gov is trying to move to 100% mail in California. Trump is calling that a power grab. Yes, it's very telling when someone says that allowing registered voters to vote more easily is a power grab. Boy, that's a revealing statement, isn't it? Another super chat from Zeraxis. Thank you very much for the super chat, Zeraxis. It says, I was disappointed recently while voting in the Oregon primary, even though he'd already dropped out. The states with low population and that vote later votes means nothing. We need a better system. Oh, I agree completely. I agree. I agree completely. Hey, Jason's here. Opinionville. What kind of American works on Memorial Day? Steve Shives. That's who. You're goddamn right, buddy. I worked over the weekend too. There's an old saying, and Jason knows this. There's an old saying, if you find a way to make your job something you love, then you will work every moment for the rest of your life until you die. And that's good, I guess, to constantly be working. To take the thing you're good at, the thing you love, turn it into a job so that you have to do it in order to survive. And then you'll be doing it because you work for yourself. You don't have a boss. You don't have set hours. You'll be doing it all the time. Ah, won't that be great? Saw another couple super chats come in here. Here's another one from John Burns. Thank you again, John. Mail-in ballots would be great until another Democrat loses the presidency, leading to mail-in ballots becoming racist. Right. Let's hope not. Some random geek says Bernie Sanders got 1,000 delegates. Your thoughts? I think it's great. I voted for Sanders and for Sanders delegates in my state's primary. I would like to see Sanders show up at the convention with a good number of delegates because I would like for the progressive or more progressive wing of the party to have a lot of influence on the platform. So I think that's terrific. Another super chat just came in from John Burns. Thank you again, John. Says, if only Ronald Reagan had gotten a bill passed that made mail-in ballots mandatory. Yeah, exactly. Then it would be gospel. If Reagan had supported it and had signed the bill, then it would be Republican gospel. Yeah, Opinionville, Jason says, works on a holiday, works on the weekends. You are a communist. I am not. Ask some random geek about that. I am definitely not a communist. I'm a huge disappointment to all the commies, I'm sure. Yes, Matthew Datcher says, remember, according to 45, if we have mail-in ballots, no Republican will ever win again. Something tells me the Republicans will still win in like Alabama and Mississippi. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too cynical, but something tells me there are some states that are so red, it's not like you can't just say, well, if only there was more turnout from the Democrats. I really feel like there are certain Republican strongholds that they're just going to have, at least for a while, unless there's some kind of major turnover that would probably take a very long time. Ultra Trekkie. So how does this whole primary thing work? Well, the easy way to describe it is the primary elections are used to assign delegates for particular candidates that then go to the national convention and officially nominate that party's candidate. So states award delegates based on the results of the primary election. And some states are winner-take-all states, where if you win the primary, you get all of that state's delegates. Some states, a lot of states now are proportional, where it depends on what percentage of the vote you get. But it's basically the primary elections are used to apportion the delegates that then go to the convention to nominate the candidate. JT just sent in a super chat. Thank you very much. No question or message, just a super chat. So thank you very much for that, JT. Yeah, JT. And then later down, JT says Alabama's too red. Trust me on that. I trust you. I trust you. Dorota Trekkie says, why do you have to register? In Germany, when I turned 18, I got letters of all political parties to say, hey, vote for us. And then I grabbed my letter of I can vote, of I can votation, and voted. Yeah, that's how it should be here. That's how it should be here. Neelis Kryak, is there evidence for mail-in ballots not favoring one side or the other? There's not a lot of evidence that I'm aware of either side. Since Trump started this conversation again a few weeks ago, I read something, I think in the Washington Post, where there have been studies that have suggested that it doesn't really favor either party. Conventional wisdom says that higher turnout favors the Democrats. And traditionally, over the last couple of decades, the Republicans have supported more voter suppression measures than the Democrats have. So Republicans like to try and hold down the turnout, and Democrats like to try to drive turnout higher. So there's that, and people assume, well, absentee ballots would mean higher voter turnout, which would mean it would benefit the Democrats. But it doesn't seem like it would necessarily favor one side or the other, at least not overall. I'm sure in certain places it would favor one party or the other based on registration and so forth. But nationally, I don't think there's any evidence that I know of that it would absolutely favor the Democrats or the Republicans. Another super chat from John Burns. Thank you again, my friend. There are some states that are so red, like the 30 states that voted for Trump. Not all of them. Not all of them are so red, but yeah, there are certain states that are not battleground states and will not be battleground states anytime soon. I'll just put it that way. A. Elmar says, this is a good point. Registration is the legacy of the Jim Crow South. Yeah, that's very true. Voter registration was and still is used to try and block black folks and people of color in general from being able to exercise their vote. 255 AD says, your thoughts on paycheck protection loans going to churches and religious organizations? The non-shitty atheists are up in arms about it. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think that churches ought to be bailed out in this. I think I'm all for loans being given to small businesses so they can continue to pay their people. I think that's very important, and I think more of that should be done. But no, I don't think churches ought to be bailed out. And I don't think companies that are like multi-billion-dollar companies that turn huge profits that could afford to continue to pay their people without a loan from the government should be getting them either. And that's also been happening. Ensign Hal, another super chat. Thank you, Hal. Says UK Labour Party election was online, worked fine. Yeah, there's all sorts of things we could be doing. Mail-in voting, online voting, that to make automatic registration that could make it a lot easier for more people to vote, and it's just not being done. And a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is because Republicans are blocking it and do not want people to be able to vote as easily as they could. Super chat from Zeraxis says, from what I've seen, the higher turnout is countered by ease of voting increasing for white rural communities, so it evens out in practice. Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's probably what people are getting at when they say it ultimately doesn't really favor one party over the other. It would really depend on the number of registered voters in a given district. Like if you make voting so easy that turnout becomes really, really high, and everybody gets a ballot and all you have to do is fill it out and mail it in, then whether or not mail-in voting benefits Republicans or Democrats would depend on how many Republicans or Democrats are registered and are willing or able to mail in their ballot in that particular district. So it wouldn't have anything to do with the mail-in ballot. It would have to do with the registration in that district. MC3PO says, if communities value their churches, maybe they should work together to help them, like a community. Yeah, how about that? What a concept. Instead of churches acting like they're entitled, like they have a right to exist, whether they can afford it or not. A church is a business. A church doesn't deserve any special privileges just because they claim they have a divine mandate from God. Anybody can claim that. A church is a business. And Republicans, hard-hearted Republicans, would say this about any other kind of business. They would say, hey, if you cannot afford to survive and be financially viable, it's sad, it's terrible, we're so sorry, but you should go out of business. Why shouldn't the same thing happen to a church? Especially a church that probably is not a major employer. Another super chat from John Burns. If the election doesn't happen, Trump's first term still ends January 2021. Same with Pelosi, and 1/3 of the senators would be out of a job. No one can appoint a president. Yeah, that's true. That's true. If there is no election whatsoever, then people whose terms are still up do not just automatically roll over and get to stay in office. That's absolutely correct. Super chat from Murray Zoller says, update, Cumgate has now turned into Cum Sack. Good to know. Good to know. The Peacekeeper of Chi says, do you see the pattern that's going on? 2 times Democrat, 2 times Republican, another 2 Democrat, another 2 Republican. It's been going like that since the late 80s. Yeah, for the most part. There have been a few interruptions. Actually, no, there's not an interruption necessarily, but there was Reagan, and then there was 1 term of Bush, of H.W. Bush. So that was 3 times Republican, because it was 2 Reagan and 1 Bush. But yeah, for the most part, I think you're right. I have noticed that pattern. Super chat from JT. Once again, thank you very much. The casual racism, xenophobia, and fear of communism is extremely prevalent and normal here in Alabama. I can't say that surprises me, unfortunately. 255 AD says, did you know some paycheck protection loans were going to big payday lenders? I did not know that. Evangel says, you're all right. We need to seize the money that churches hold and make it harder for rural white people to vote. It seems a little extreme. Okay, so if anybody has any final questions or any final super chats they were planning on being generous with tonight, not that I'm asking, but if you were planning on it, just go ahead and get those in now, because I'm going to wrap up here in a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and go through my final links and plugs and stuff, and then we'll wrap up. So anybody with any final questions, go ahead and get it in there, and I'll scroll back and get to them in a second. So I already pushed my Patreon. There's the Patreon link, patreon.com/Steve Shives. Also, there is a link to a Google Doc prepared by our friend Some Random Geek in the description box of this video with charity links for some of our friends who need a helping hand. Please click that link and check out those charity links. And if you can help out some of our friends who are listed there, please do so, because it would be great if you could spare a few bucks to help out some of our friends who are in a little bit of help economically at the moment. Also, another plug for myself. Don't forget that I co-host a couple of podcasts with the great Jason Harding, who is in the live chat, Opinionville. We co-host the Late Seating podcast, which is a movie review podcast, and the Ensign's Log, which is a Star Trek themed comedy podcast. The new episode of Late Seating, which is Jason's birthday episode, went up this past Friday. It's our review of Buckaroo Banzai, and I highly recommend you check that out, because that was a fun show to do. And then this coming Friday is our newest episode of the Ensign's Log will drop, and we're in season 3 of the Ensign's Log. We're working our way quite swiftly through classic Star Trek. So check out the Ensign's Log. If you dig the Star Trek stuff that I do on this channel, I think you'll really, really like the Ensign's Log. So check it out as well. Now, let's turn to the live chat for a few final questions, shall we? I saw a super chat from Zeraxis who says, my biggest worry for 2020 is if Trump loses, refuses to leave, and then due to people he's placed in power isn't immediately removed, which would be unthinkable under normal circumstances, but is actually not that unthinkable. So I don't think that's realistically going to happen, but it is possible. So I do kind of share that fear. And another super chat from Zeraxis. Thank you again for that as well. On a positive note, looking forward to that Pike show. Came for the Trek, stayed for the neat politics. Look like it's going to be great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to I'm really looking forward to the Pike show. Opinionville asked, hey, Steve, what's up with Trump's posture and balance? They're not good. They're not good, I think, is what's up with them. No, I didn't read out Melissa Hansel's super chat. Thank you, Some Random Geek. Melissa sent me a super chat, says, just wanted to say I enjoy all your videos and wanted to give you what I could for the countless hours of entertainment. And oh, thank you, Melissa, so much. I'm sorry I missed your super chat. Thank you, Geek, for pointing it out to me. Reminding me or showing me that I missed it. And thank you very much, Melissa, for saying such a nice thing and for being so generous. And I'm glad that you enjoy the videos. I'm happy I can do something to make things a little nicer and give you some entertainment and whatever. That's really great. And I got another super chat here from Quinn FTW76. They can't just not have the election. It is constitutionally mandated. It can't just be skipped like an episode of a show you don't like. I agree. But, you know, tell the Republicans, right? Like, especially the Republican secretaries of state in states that might consider, if Trump says we have to delay the election, like that they might actually go along with it. Would it be unconstitutional? Well, yeah, absolutely. But I mean, how many unconstitutional things has Trump done already? I agree with you, but I'm just saying, just because it's constitutionally required doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. I hope it happens, but yeah. Jesse Gender, I need the Pike show right now, but I really need more of Ethan Peck's beard. Sweetheart, he ain't going to have the beard in the show. He's going to be clean shaven Spock. I hate to be the one to break it to you. I know you really love Spock beard. And look, as a fellow beardo of bearded Spock, I completely agree that I thought I dug the Spock beard. It was a subject of controversy on the Feminist Frequency Trekcast. It was not there was a bit of arguing over whether Ethan Peck's Spock beard was a good thing or a bad thing. By the end of the season, I thought Spock beard was pretty good. But he will be clean shaven Spock, mark my words. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm really not. But that Spock beard is gone. That Spock beard is gone, baby. Super chat from Charles Williams. Great job, Steve. Love the videos. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the sentiment and for the super chat. Yeah, Christy Abbey says, I love Anson Mount's at home beard. Yeah, the Pike beard is pretty nice too. See, maybe they could, we don't know. Maybe after the cage, maybe Pike did grow a beard for a little while before the accident. We could do bearded Pike, but I don't know about Spock. Spock doesn't seem like the bearded type. Yeah, Jesse says, don't ruin my fantasy. We can change canon. That's right. You know what? You're absolutely right. We can change canon. I am not a Zeraxis super chat. Thank you, R.I.P. Spock beard. But maybe Jesse's right. We can change canon. I am not a stickler for canon, as a lot of people know. So you know what? I'm not going to complain. If the first episode of Strange New Worlds drops in a couple years and it's Ethan Peck as Spock with a beard, I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to be like, but Spock doesn't have a beard. I'm going to be like, let's watch the show and see if it's any good before we decide whether or not we hate it. Yeah, so anyway, I'm going to reluctantly turn away from the live chat and bring this to a close. Thank you all so much for being with me, for watching, for being part of the show, for hanging out for the after show. I'll be back this coming Friday for an Ask Away live stream where I'll be answering your questions for the whole damn time. So if you enjoy seeing me answer your questions, that's the show that you want to watch. Now, get rid of the political commentary at the beginning and we'll just answer questions the whole time. And it'll be a lot of fun. So I'll see you on Friday. There will be a Not Actually Trek Actually video going up on Wednesday. And then Friday, in addition to the Ask Away, Friday will also be a new episode of The Whirlpool. So look out for that. And as I mentioned earlier, don't forget to go to SoundCloud or whatever your whatever podcast app you're using to listen to our podcast. And don't forget that on Friday, there's a new Ensign's log coming out as well. So that's all the plugs, I think. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Be careful. Take care, everybody.